Know thyself, said Apollo to the Greeks, and Socrates further insisted that the unexamined life is not worth living. Modern technology has updated this philosophy of self-awareness into a data-driven movement called the quantified self. Today, self-knowledge starts and ends with numbers. Technology allows us to track our daily habits of spending, working, and eating, right down to the dollar, dawdle, and donut. But if an unquantified life is an unexamined life, where does that leave people like Socrates, who lived centuries ago without our self-monitoring technology? Let's examine this together. My own quantified life may be average at best, but I easily outdo our ancestors. I record my blood pressure, body temperature, and weight every day, and I take an at-home EKG as well. My desktop computer tells me how many minutes I spend each week answering emails, and my phone tattles to my insurance company about all my driving habits, how far I go, whether in daylight or darkness, how many times I accelerate or brake too fast, and whether I talk or text behind the wheel. I am surrounded by me monitors everywhere I go, although not to the extent that many others find necessary for a fulfilled life of daily self-surveillance. I don't wear all the high-tech equipment of a truly committed self-analyzer, but not because I oppose self-knowledge based on numbers. Far from it. I think the quantified self is a fascinating thing within our personal limits of income and tech savviness. In fact, as an ancient historian, I only wish that Socrates and his contemporaries had been willing and able to self-quantify as much as you and I do. Think about it. We generate more data just backing out of the driveway than did Alexander's army on its entire march to India. Just imagine if his soldiers had worn GPS sensors in their sandals. What if Julius Caesar had an app that could track his happiness? What if Pharaoh wore a Fitbit or Cleopatra some tell-all body-hacking clothes? But all is not lost. I have found some illuminating, if low-tech data about the ancient quantified self. Would you like to know how many steps Alexander the Great and his soldiers took each day, all the way from Greece to India? Believe it or not, every stride was counted and recorded. A special squad of human pedometers called bematists, literally pacers, kept track of every step in order to map the distances covered by the king and his army. The bematists later published their amazing work, and their step-by-step mileage is accurate to an astonishing degree. Alexander had access to no electronics that would measure his sleep cycles, but we know that he did enjoy an unusual amount of third stage NREM sleep during the early hours of October the 1st, 331 BC. On that day, his generals had difficulty waking him to launch and win the largest battle of his career at a place called Gaugamela. Meanwhile, the opposing forces of Persia got no REM sleep of any kind, since they had been ordered to remain in formation all night in case Alexander should launch a sneak attack. On other occasions, Alexander self-reported periods of REM sleep that were duly logged in his daily journal as specific bouts of dreaming in need of analysis. Further examples of this were recorded in Egypt, Central Asia, and India. Keeping track of sleep was perhaps the least of Alexander's concerns, given the dangers he faced every day and night from enemy warriors and would-be assassins. His quantified self tallied more than a dozen major battlefield injuries, some of them nearly fatal. He paid the heavy price demanded of all Macedonian kings, who must lead by example, always in the front ranks of the fighting, facing every danger firsthand. Arrows were a particular threat, but also swords, clubs, and catapulted stones. Even in moments of relaxation, Alexander and his men courted death. They were quantifiably competitive to a fault. For instance, in 324 BC, a drinking contest among Alexander's followers got dangerously out of hand. 41 of the competitors died, including the winner, if we can call him that. He reportedly gulped down 3 gallons of strong wine before expiring. I cannot guess how many lives might have been saved by wearing a decent smartwatch with an alcohol warning. Life logging centuries ago was not as easy as it is now, but that makes the primitive body hacks available to the ancient historian that much more interesting. The unexamined life was not worth living, relatively unquantified though it may have been. We can do better, not only for ourselves, but for the historians of the future looking back on us when we too will be ancient. I'm Dr. Frank L. Holt, inviting you to subscribe to this channel. After all, it is part of my quantified self, and I'm always happy to have the numbers.